Hey guys, in this video I'm going to talk you through the very basics which every beginner should be going through when they start off their journey to weightlifting or resistance training. Now, first of all, well done for making the leap. I do believe that everyone should incorporate some form of resistance or weight training into their routine. The first thing you need to do or consider is you need to follow some kind of a training routine or a training program. You can't just go into the gym and do, whatever takes your fancy without any kind of programming in place. You can't just walk in and think, oh, I'll do a bit of this, I'll do a bit of that, I'll do, you need to have some kind of structure in place. The best thing to do would be to split up your weekly training regime into either just an upper body day or lower body day or a full body workout. Okay, so don't go look on the internet for training programs which are designed for bodybuilders, because it's just not going to work for you. It's going to destroy you. Start off with the basics. You need to understand that your muscles, they're not experienced with this kind of thing, so they're going to be very, very fragile, and overloading them is going to be quite easy. So I would recommend starting off with the basics. I'm not just going into the gym and just for guys out there spending a full hour doing chest training. No, because your chest is going to be fatigued probably 15 or 20 minutes into the session. So you're better off just doing pushing, pulling movements, very basic compound lifts. Okay. Now, because you're a beginner, you probably don't know how to perform some of the more complex lifts, such as the squat, the deadlifts, even the bent over row, just getting your spine and your posture right in the first place. So I'd probably recommend maybe starting off with a few machine-based activities to start off with, just to get your muscles used to working. And then as you progress, after a week or so, you can start to, experiment with some of the free weight stuff, such as the deadlifts and squats and things like that. Now, as your body is not used to this kind of a routine, it's very common for people who are starting off with their new journey in this kind of thing to want to go, straight into the deep end and be like, right, I'm going to train every day, I'm going to sort my nutrition out, and, they just go full steam ahead, and they don't realize that the body's not used to this. So, more often than not, they'll go to the gym once or twice and the full body is just sore all over. Yet they try to continue and push themselves, and they just end up overloading the central nervous system. The body's not used to this, and they'll just burn out and feel terrible. So, it might be worth, within a week, 7 days, maybe only doing 3 to 4 sessions of very kind of light exercising and movements and just getting used to it. There's no point trying to do 6 resistance-based sessions on your very first week. What you need to understand once you start to implement this, basic program designed for yourself, for a beginner, is how to execute the movements. Okay, so the fundamentals which I implement with a lot of my clients is you need to initiate whatever movement you're doing with the working muscle. Then I like to say to my clients that you need to maintain the tension across that working muscle. Your body is going to try and take the path of least resistance, and believe me, I've seen it happen. It's extremely hard to try and do this, so you need to practice. If the focus of that exercise is to target your chest, you want to try and maintain all that tension upon your chest. There's no point in your delts or your triceps doing the majority of the work, because it defeats the purpose of the exercise. Not only do you need to concentrate as much as possible when doing the exercises, you don't want to try and rush through it and be like, right, let's get it over and done with. No, you want to think, is that the best possible set that I can do? Did I feel it where I should be feeling it? If not, maybe you need to change a few things up. Maybe change your posture, maybe concentrate a little bit more, just readjust yourself a little bit to try and feel it where you should be feeling it. Now, I completely understand that as you are a beginner, this is going to be very new to you. And with all the clients that I've trained who are or have started off with being complete beginners to this, you're doing a movement, you've probably never done before. So you're not going to just get it straight away. Very few people are just naturals at performing exercises. You get better with practice and the more reps you do. So the most important thing you need to do to begin with is to make sure that your form is as good as it can be. Don't let yourself get sloppy, and don't introduce bad habits. As soon as you get bad habits in place, it becomes very difficult to try and undo them. Most common bad habit I see is when it comes to, the chest press. Most people have learnt to press using their front delts, and they find it extremely difficult to keep their shoulders retracted and to place the tension upon the pectorals. Another thing you may want to consider, since you are a beginner, and it's something I recommend, is that you hire a professional. Now, obviously, pros and cons to doing this. One of the cons is obviously it's expensive. Another con, I would say, is that there are a hell of a lot of inexperienced trainers. I've seen so many bad trainers out there, which I've observed them training a client, and I've been like, I see the client and they're doing it wrong, yet the coach is not correcting this, or the coach is on their phone, or the coach is just not interested. So if you are going to hire someone, do your research on who it is that you're going to hire. Okay, don't make the mistake of hiring someone crap. Now, when you sign up to one-on-one coaching, in person in your local area or your gym, it doesn't have to be for like 6 months. It doesn't have to be a long-term commitment. I say to some of my clients, find a local trainer, obviously someone that's good, and approach them and say, look, I'm pretty new to this. I'm not very confident in doing, certain lifts. Would it be possible to, maybe just do 4 or 5 sessions with you, and you teach me the very basics of, those movements, and then I can go away and at least be confident with what I'm doing. Especially when it comes to the squat, the deadlift, bent over rows, complex movements are very hard to try and teach yourself to do. And, even if you need those 4 or 5 sessions, it is worth the investment, because what you learn, you will then keep with you for the rest of your life. And I, unfortunately, was completely self-taught, but that meant that the first few years of training, I made so many mistakes. 2 or 3 years of just bad habits, which, had somebody such as myself or another coach taught me from the very beginning, I could have saved myself all that wasted time. Not wasted time, but ineffective training. I've had mixed views about group training. If there's a small group of you being trained by a trainer, that's not too bad. But, when you see these big groups of like 20 to 30 people in one class, supervised by one coach, and a lot of them are beginners, that one coach cannot give them nowhere near enough time and attention which they require, particularly when they are beginners. If the coach gets them doing some kind of circuit, performing exercises they've never done before, it's highly likely they're not going to perform them properly. And that coach, who's heavily distracted with 30 other people, is not going to notice if you're messing up with bad form. Or even if you are, he does try and correct you, he doesn't give you as much time as you require. If you decide to go against the coaching and you just want to stick to watching videos, make sure that you've watched all my common mistakes videos, because I do think they're very effective, and they have basically it's a compilation of all the common mistakes I see when training different body parts. So if you've not seen that yet, please watch that. I'm sure you'll find some useful information. So once you're pretty confident in what you're doing and you started off with your program and you've understood and you're comfortable with executing the exercises and hitting the target muscle, what you then need to focus on is progressively overloading your muscles. And basically what that means is making each weekly session a little bit more intense than it was than the previous one. One of the best ways to do this is obviously to lift a little bit heavier. By doing this, your body's going to produce an adaptive response and produce more muscle tissue in order to be better adapted at dealing with that stress the next time it comes around to dealing with it. Make sure that you're tracking what you're lifting in each session. Okay, if you lift the same thing over and over and over again, your body's not going to change. If you increase that weight, it is likely that your body's going to change and add muscle tissue. Now, obviously, there's going to be a point where you can't continually increase the weight again and again and again and again. You tend to find that you can continually increase the weights on the compound movements, more so than the isolation movements. So say for example, if you're doing a dumbbell lateral raise, it's unlikely you'll be able to go heavier and heavier and heavier each week long into the future. Once you get to a certain point, you can't really lift much heavier without your form going to complete shit. So at that point, that was what I would say is you're beginning to plateau. So you need to make sure that you don't fall into a plateau, because that's when results kind of fail and cease to exist. So that brings me on to the next point, where you need to be able to prevent yourself from reaching a plateau. One of the best ways to realize or notice that it's a sign to change is when you actually you stop seen progress or you fail to see any kind of increase in your performance, so increased weights. So what I would do is I would start to change up your training split. So if you have been doing just simply a lower body routine, an upper body routine, or maybe a full body workout, maybe increase the number of sessions you do per week, and change up the splits. So maybe doing a pushing and pulling day, or an overhead pushing and pulling day. Maybe doing a quad dominant day for the lower body and a hamstring dominant day for the body, or just doing a pushing day, maybe doing a pulling day, and then 2 lower body days. It can depend